Hi, my name is Dr. Jackson Crawford. Since some point in, I want to say, late 2016, I have been making videos on YouTube on this channel about subjects in my specialty: Old Norse language, Norse mythology, runes, all subjects like that. And occasionally, some algorithm or recommendation system or whatever uh, leads a new viewer into this channel, perhaps yourself. And one of the first things that I have become accustomed to getting asked by new viewers on every medium under the sun is, will you translate this thing for me into Old Norse and or runes? Often with the misunderstanding that runes are a language rather than an alphabet for writing a language. And just about always these translation requests are for tattoos. Not that people always say that. And so you might ask, well, how do you know that it's for a tattoo? Yeah, I know. There are a few different considerations here. One is just the volume of requests. You might think that your desire for a tattoo that says courage and runes or what have you is unusual, but in fact, you know, literally, depending on what is getting attention, in terms of videos or something that day, there can be more than 100 requests for something like that. And just about no one offers to pay up front. Now, a long time ago, especially before the YouTube channel, when my main internet presence was with this old translation that I had done of Star Wars into Old Norse, I used to take these translation requests for a certain flat fee. I can't remember what it was, maybe $50, and some disclaimers and such about it. But then I would counter often to people that made these requests, and I would say, well, here's my fee, and they would say, oh, well, I can't pay that. Well, like, what are you giving me that makes this worth me doing it? And you might say, well, the joy of, I don't know, practicing your subject. Well, I get that from just my regular work anyway, such as I experience joy. Or, the challenge of an interesting translation. It's like, but I don't need to translate things for speakers of Old Norse, right? I get plenty, believe me, of translation challenges from working on the Prose Edda, my next book project. I don't, need some extra. And there are huge translation challenges that really are difficult to resolve with trying to get English or other modern language phrases into Old Norse. So, for example, I don't want to take any one specific translation request because I don't want to pick on anybody here. But to give you an idea of the kind of thing that people will ask for and just how tough this can be, I used a random number generator to decide a particular campaign and year. So let's say Bush 1992. You want a Bush 1992 tattoo. Okay, honestly, the world is full, so there may be somebody who wants this in runes or whatever. So the first thing you have to decide is, like, well, who is this for, right? Why do you want this in Old Norse? Are there Old Norse speakers? Are there Vikings that you're trying to convince to vote a particular way? No one speaking Old Norse would recognize Bush as a person's name. Translating it literally into Old Norse doesn't make any sense because you're not talking about, a small plant. And then Old Norse has no sh sound. So how do I represent that? SH as a sequence doesn't actually mean anything in Old Norse. This gets tripled in difficulty if we're trying to put this into runes. There is a B rune in Younger Futhark, the runic alphabet used to write Old Norse, so that's easy enough. In Younger Futhark, any rounded vowel is represented with the U rune, so I guess the second letter is easily enough accounted for. But then again, we run into this problem with SH. They don't have that sound sh at all. So do you represent it as the closest thing, which I don't know exactly what that is the closest thing, in terms of pronunciation, is that S? Right, then you get bus, or it looks like bus. Old Norse cognates to English words that have sh, have ska in them. So is it, do you write busk? Right, then it looks like busk, like what jugglers do on Pearl Street. There's just not a satisfactory way to do this. Also, by the way, busk, like that could almost be a Norse motto, because that would mean prepare oneself, not yourself, but prepare oneself. That actually seems like a reasonable Norse kind of motto, but it's not what the person's asking for. And then you get a huge problem with the 1992. So even the Christian Norse weren't good and consistent about using this calendar. Typically when they talk about years, they're saying, the 5th year of the reign of so-and-so. And our inference about what year that is on the Julian or Gregorian calendar is based on sort of triangulating from mentions of some of the same people in the texts of Christian or Arabic writers who have more consistent calendars. So I'm not sure that the concept of 1992 would mean something to a Norse speaker. And for some reason, this is a huge sticking point for some people. They just think that I'm lying my ass off about this. There are not runes to represent particular numerals. They can write numbers, right? They have numbers, right? Obviously, you can count in Old Norse. You can do math in Old Norse. But on runestones, we don't see numbers represented as numbers. They're written out as words, right? You don't write the symbol 1 in Roman or Arabic numerals. You write out the word O-N-E. Now, with Christianity comes awareness of some abstract symbols for numbers, but in our manuscripts, such as the Codex Regius, the Poetic Edda, what they're writing are Roman numerals, right? So I guess you could do Roman numerals, but then all you've got is Bush and then 1992 in Roman numerals. There's not anything particularly runic about it. There's also something called pentatic numerals, used in some very late runic inscriptions, as well as in forgeries such as the Kensington runestone, but those are particularly late, right? This is all from somewhere else. This isn't runes. So in the end, what I could produce out of this, after agonizing over it for an hour, is something that's kind of meaningless to anyone, right? Why didn't you just get it in English if this message means so much to you? And then someone's probably not even going to pay me for it, right? So it's just done nothing for me, not much for you, and I don't really understand what the transaction was about. And then I have 99 more to do before I can get to my work that impacts more than one person. So I struggle with this, right? I don't want to do it because it's typically not fun. It's typically not remunerative. I'm not a tattoo guy anyway. I don't have any. I don't care what you do. It's your business, but it's not something that interests me. Just as cowboy hats and Southwestern silver jewelry probably don't interest you. So there's no fulfillment in it. And obviously, if somebody came to me and said, "Here's $5,000, translate this 3-word tattoo," well, I mean, yeah, I would do that. But because this is all such a wearisome process, and it would just be repeated day in, day out, and it would be something that was for one person, as opposed to a video that a few thousand people might see, a book that several thousand people might see, a course that more than 100 paying people are going to take. There's just no economic grounds for it. And on top of that is liability concerns. It's not very obvious that people bring me something to translate that's obviously just disgusting, but it happens occasionally. And of course, people can mean things worse than I think that they mean them. I have probably less of an imagination about these things than other people. So, it's safer for me not to be involved in translating people's tattoos for that reason. And I've also always kind of worried that, like, well, if you have tattoo regret later in your life, are you going to come after me about it because, you pressured me to translate this thing fast? Or somebody told you that it's wrong when, it probably isn't, but somebody told you that it is because a little learning is a dangerous thing, and they know a little bit about Elder Futhark or something, and they see my younger Futhark and they say, oh, this is crap. Why do I need this grief when I didn't want to do it in the first place, and you gave me $14 or some crap for that, right? So this is why my policy has become just hands off. I just don't do it, right? I do translation if, it's for a media project, right? For like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Frozen or something like that. Occasionally I might consider doing it if somebody offered me like really, really good money, but that almost never happens, right? People want to offer you just pennies. And when you consider that I am still paying for this stupid PhD in Scandinavian studies that I'm trying to, make a living off of now, and, not succeeding that well, and still paying student loans for, right? Again, it's like, you don't realize how much work goes into developing the skill to translate something into Old Norse or into runes, right? Yes, it might take me 10 seconds because you asked for one word and it's a word that I've actually seen in runes, right? That's like the best case scenario, and it almost never happens. People want very modern messages. But just because it took me 10 seconds to answer a question doesn't mean that it didn't take me 10 years to learn how to answer it, right? And I'd like to think, and I struggle to think, unfortunately, that those 10 years were worth something, and worth something more than you throwing a few dollars at me and a picture of a tattoo I didn't want to see in the first place. For what it's worth, everything that I've said in other videos about the difficulty of translating into Old Norse and why you want an expert to do it applies here, and especially here, because if you want to put something on your body permanently, you obviously want it to be good. And yet, I have seen people who will write to me, this is surprisingly common, and say, it's Friday morning and I'm getting a tattoo tonight, right? I need you to translate this by then. It's like, I don't know what happens to those people when, they don't get their translation. Maybe they just go with whatever they can get from Google Translate. But it seems to me that if you're going to do something like that you would want to consider it for longer than that, and want to make sure that it's right. As far as alternative sources for getting this done, over the years I've written so many things in Old Norse on this channel, some of them in runes, that you could probably find texts that I've done for other purposes, and get your tattoo or part of your tattoo out of that. I don't. The information's out there, so you can do with that information what you want to do. I don't know of anyone who is truly qualified with the language and runes who's willing to do tattoo translations. I think just about everyone in this position feels the same as me, that it's kind of boring and unfulfilling, and potentially, again, has risks associated with it. And also, though this shouldn't be just an appendix, it's something I've discussed in other videos too. Old Norse is a very concrete medium of expression, and there aren't that many instances in which one talks about abstract concepts as such, right? They talk much more often about a brave man than about courage. So the fact that people so often want these abstract concepts right? You know, courage or virtue or loyalty or duty or something like that. It's really not how they talk about things. You'd be much more likely in Old Norse to talk about, you know, a courageous person, a dutiful person, a loyal person. That's vocabulary that we see all the time. Not that there aren't words for things like courage. It's just that it's not like the normal phrasing, right? To use the abstract noun as opposed to the adjective. So, if my current production schedule is what it seems to be at the moment, this video will probably post on my 39th birthday. So I advance inexorably toward 40 and true middle age, and you know, by conventional notions of lifespan, I'm more than halfway done at least. And you know, I've been pretty frank on this channel often about my struggles with trying to find satisfaction in life and fulfillment in my purpose, some very elusive sense of being a success. And so I hope that, although it may be disappointing to you that I'm not interested in taking your tattoo translation request, that you understand why, and that I remain committed to trying to provide the best information that I can about Old Norse language, myth, and runes, historical languages, and related subjects on YouTube, my Zoom classes, and my books, and that I want to provide that stuff for as many people as I can, and that taking those individual tattoo translation requests is not an efficient use of my time when that's my prime goal here, and is wearisome for me. It's not exaggerated to say that it's depressing for me, because it's, you know, again, I spent all this time schooling for this, and now I'm translating an Ozzy Osbourne song into runes, right? It's like, I probably can't convey to you, if you haven't finished a PhD or something, how depressing that can be. Regardless, I hope that you all know that, of course, I'm thankful for your support, whether on Patreon, Ko-Fi, through buying books or taking my classes, and that from beautiful Colorado, Birds and I are wishing you all the best.